guys, it's Alyssa from simplyquinoa.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make my spiced coconut yogurt muffins. These are one of my favorite recipes from the blog, and they're a great way to start your day. They're incredibly healthy, they're fiber rich, they're packed with complex carbohydrates, so unlike those muffins that you might find at a traditional bakery, these aren't going to skyrocket your blood sugar and make you crash mid-morning. They're also really easy to make. We're using fresh fruit as well as unsweetened coconut yogurt, which gives them a really nice flavor and texture. And our dry ingredients are going to be things like oats and quinoa, so they're really nice and hearty. And the great thing about these muffins is that they are not only naturally gluten-free, but they are also dairy-free, egg-free, and oil-free. So let's go ahead and dive into the recipe. So to make this recipe, we are going to start with our wet ingredients. We're going to be baking everything in one bowl. And to make these vegan, we are using a flaxseed egg. If you've never made a flaxseed egg before, they're really easy. You just use 1 tablespoon of flaxseed meal and 3 tablespoons of warm water. Whisk it together into a small bowl and set this aside and let it gel for about 3 to 5 minutes. From there, we can add in half a cup of mashed banana. This is about 1 large banana, maybe 2 small bananas, but make sure that you measure it out, as well as half a cup of unsweetened applesauce. And then we're also using 1/2 cup of unsweetened coconut yogurt, as well as 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And then you'll add in your flaxseed egg and we'll whisk it all together until this is smooth and combined. From there, we can move on to our dry ingredients. And again, we're going to just add everything into one bowl so that this is nice and easy for you. The base is going to be 1 1/4 cups of oat flour. Then we're also going to be adding in 1/2 cup of blanched almond flour. You wanna make sure that you're using the blanched variety and that it's super fine, as well as 1/2 cup of quinoa flakes. If you don't have quinoa flakes, you could also use quick cooking oats. And then we're using 1/4 cup of coconut sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of nutmeg, and this combination together is gonna make them really warm and cozy. And then finishing it off with a pinch of sea salt. And then you can stir everything together until you get a nice thick batter. And we're going to scoop this into our muffin tin. I like to use a 12-cup muffin tin, and I like to line mine with paper liners. You could also use a non-stick cooking spray if you don't have paper liners. This recipe makes between 10 and 12 muffins, so you'll wanna make sure that you line or grease all of the muffin tins, and then you can add water into the extras if you do have empty ones left over. For the batter, you're going to wanna scoop about 1/4 cup into each tin. You're really wanting to fill these 3/4 of the way full so they get nice and fluffy. And just repeat until you've used all of your batter. And then I like to sprinkle mine with a touch of quinoa flakes. I just really like the way that it looks at the end, but you could not do this, or you could use coconut shreds. That also looks really pretty. And then you can just pop them in the oven, and we'll bake these at 350 degrees on the center rack for about 22 to 26 minutes until a cake tester inserted into the center comes out clean. Then you can just remove your muffins from the oven. I like to let them sit in the tin for about 5 minutes, and then I transfer them to a wire rack to finish cooling them completely. To serve these muffins, I love toasting them in the toaster, topping them with a nut butter or some additional coconut yogurt. You could also do some jam, or you could just take them with you on the go. But otherwise, this is a really healthy way to start your day, fiber packed, and I know you guys are gonna love them. To get this full recipe and more, head on over to my website, simplyquinoa.com.